Hi there, today we're going to be talking about the primary duty of care for businesses under the Australian Work Health and Safety Legislation. My name is Michael Terry, I'm from Momentum Safety and Ergonomics, and this is the 5-Minute Safety Series. Okay, let's jump straight in and talk about the primary duty of care under the Australian Work Health and Safety Legislation. We outlined this in a little bit of detail in our Australian Work Health and Safety Legislation video, as well as our general Work Health and Safety Duties video. So if you haven't seen these before, it'd be well worth your while jumping back and having a quick look at those before moving on. Because we're going to be breaking down this primary duty of care and having a closer look at the key elements, what they mean and how we can achieve them. Okay, jumping on in and looking at maintaining a safe work environment. When we're talking about maintaining a safe work environment, we're really talking about where the worker physically works. So this might include the physical buildings and workplace, but it might also include things like vehicles as well as the home work environment. The things that we should be looking out for here are things like floor surfaces, making sure that they're nice and trip hazard free. We're looking at things like handrails and making sure that there's minimal risk or no risk of falling from a height. Entry and exits, making sure we have clear exit paths in an emergency and that our exits are safe. We could also be talking about things like air quality here as well. So different working environments might have some risks of poor air quality for the worker to breathe, and other little things may come into place like ergonomics, manual handling, those sorts of things. But these are probably more to do with some of the other duty of care elements that we're going to be talking about later. So how can we really achieve this duty of care? How can we make sure, as a business, we're maintaining a safe working environment? Well, I think our hazard and risk management process is the key here, and really the key element of this is going to be the inspection and review process. We need to have a regular one of those. Anything too serious we find should be subject to a risk assessment, obviously. Things like air quality and what have you can be dealt with through good workplace monitoring, and that might need to be done by someone else if you have particularly hazardous work environments. We'll have another look at that a little bit later on as well. Other things like getting your workers involved a bit more through hazard reports, consultation in toolbox talks, those sorts of things can be good things to do here. And there also may be some times where you need to get an external party in just to clarify or give you more thorough testing. And a good example of this is slip testing. There is a process where you can go by and make sure that the floor surfaces are not too slippery if you have particular concerns about this. And of course, the key is that we don't just do it as a one-off, we do it regularly and we set it up into a system. That really is going to be the key to maintaining this element. Okay, I want to just move on now and have a little bit of a look at our second element, which is going to be safe plant and structures. So now we're not so much talking about the physical building and workplace, we're talking about the things that people use. Installations, equipment, machinery, those sorts of things. And good examples, of course, are just as simple as motor vehicles. Most companies will have at least 1 or 2 vehicles that the company provides for employees to drive in. So it could be that, it could be heavy machinery if you're in a construction type workplace, or large manufacturing perhaps. It could be if you're in a warehousing situation, more your load shifting equipment, so your forklifts, order pickers, those sorts of things. But it could be something smaller like measuring equipment or portable electrical equipment as well does of course fall into this category. And the key thing to consider is that this equipment needs to be safe to use. And let's not forget, again, in COVID times here, we need to consider what people are using at home. It's not going to be heavy machinery likely, but there will be computer equipment and perhaps other equipment that needs to be considered here as well. Okay, so how do we achieve safety for this particular element? Well, I think you have to have some sort of pre-start or regular assessment or inspection process going on for most of this equipment. Now, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, that will depend on the equipment, but there needs to be a regular approach to making sure this thing is ready to use when we start using it. Risk assessments will be important for your more hazardous machinery. Regular servicing and preventative maintenance, of course, is critical to making sure that the things both work well but also work safely. We should also be recording and maintaining our ad hoc maintenance to making sure that we've got any unusual breakdowns that are addressed promptly, and that we've got records of these as well. And depending on the equipment, you may also need to consider things like calibrations. So there we go. There was our quick look at the first couple of elements for the primary duty of care under the Australian Work Health and Safety Legislation for all businesses and undertakings.